Today we're on to the very serious subject of homelessness, the factors behind it and what we can do about it. And I'm really pleased to introduce our two co-chairs this morning. So firstly, John Pugh, who's going to be, Puzey, apologies, who was a housing campaigner in Yorkshire, and then in 1990 became director of Shelter Cymru. He's been a founding member of Rough Sleeping Cymru, and he writes and broadcasts on homelessness and housing issues. Also a member of the Housing Action Group for Welsh Government, and I think a really great pleasure to have you here. Co-chairing, we've got Rudy Harris, who is an emerging voice in the homelessness sector. After having become homeless himself a year ago, Rudy has done a lot of work with Clamai to raise awareness of issues, particularly around LGBTQ issues and homelessness. Rudy also leads a trans and non-binary social group in Cardiff, and is also a trans awareness trainer as well. So really great to have both of you here this morning, and it's over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Ciaran Baradar. Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this, I think, really important seminar, Reversing the Trauma. You will see that it's a very busy day, but I think it's going to be a really interesting and potentially even exciting day ahead of us. I'm going to chair the kind of first part of the morning session, and then Rudy's going to take over after the refreshment break. So that's how we're breaking it between us today. I've got a few of those housekeeping things that one has to talk about. They are important. And the first one to tell you is that there is no fire drill scheduled for today. So therefore, if the alarm goes off, it's the real thing. And you should exit as fast as your little legs can take you out of a door there and or a door there. Well, not and, or, I mean, yes. Yes, or a door there, you know what I mean. Choose one of those doors, the nearest one to you, and then you go round there somewhere and meet up. I'm being a bit vague, but we will be helped by staff, I'm assured, who will come in and rescue us. The other thing I need to tell you about, I'm going to have to read this now. It's about the Mentimeter, which, as I said to Marie before, sounds a bit like a kind of medieval form of torture. But the Mentimeter, you will enter the Mentimeter. The Mentimeter is a web-based presentation evaluation tool, and you'll need your phone or your tablet or your laptop to participate during the day, and you will be given login details. Have you been given login details? Oh, all right. So is it up here?
Yeah.
Okay, very good. So you've been given login details, no excuse, and a code, and you'll be able to access a series of questions. And if you could, and then what we'll do is we'll see what your response to those questions are. And I think in the afternoon session, I think Ciaran will lead. Where's Ciaran gone? We'll lead a little session looking at what you've actually come up with. So that will be interesting. There's also going to be a photographer wandering around and some videos being taken of the day. And the event is also being recorded for posting to the network's website, of course. And there will be also some live streaming via Twitter. Now, if anyone has any issues about being photographed or videoed, then please raise it with the staff here. Okay. And finally, I have to tell you, not finally, a couple of finallys. Twitter. There will be live tweeting on the Public Health Network Cymru Twitter account during the seminar. So if you please follow at PH Network Cymru for updates. And if you're tweeting yourself, the hashtag is hashtag HIWS 2019. Okay, and there is Wi-Fi available, and hopefully you have the login details for the Wi-Fi. I think that's, I'm sorry, these are my reading specs, it went blurred then. I think that's it, I'm looking for help. That's it, that's great, Maria, thank you very much. Okay, we all know, of course, well, do we all know, but homelessness is rising, despite the efforts of local authorities, partner organisations and other agencies and the leadership of the Welsh Government. We are still facing a problem of rising homelessness. And we all know, of course, that homelessness is bigger than rough sleeping, but we also all know that rough sleeping is the most acute end of the homelessness spectrum, where citizens are in most danger. And I guess the issue for us is that the perception of homelessness from most members, I would suggest, of the public is that homelessness is only rough sleeping, important as that is as an issue to address. And I think there are two issues with that perception. One is that if we're going to do the kind of things that we need to do to address the broader issue of homelessness, if we're going to deploy the resources that we need to do, if we're going to introduce the policies and maybe even the legislation that we need to address fundamentally homelessness, we need public understanding and support for that. And at the moment, I don't think we've got public support and understanding for that. The other problem is that because of this very narrow focus sometimes on homelessness, that many people actually don't realise that they're in difficult situations themselves and seek the advice and the help that they need. You may not believe it, but we have people sometimes contacting my organisation who will say something along the lines of, I'm not actually homeless, so I'm not sure you can help me. And when you ask what the problem is, they say, well, I'm sleeping on the sofa, or I'm sleeping in a car. They don't see themselves as homeless because they're not actually on the streets. And of course, there are many, many people in different situations of homelessness who should be getting advice and assistance if they know where to go and get that advice and assistance. The official figures tell us that over 10,000 households not people, so I don't know what you do, double it, I don't know, looking at the expert Pete, 1.5, I don't know, but a lot more people than 10,000 approached local authorities over the last measured 12-month period as homeless. And over 11,000 households approached local authorities as being facing homelessness, just 56 days away from homelessness. Shelter Cymru helped 20,000 people over the same 12-month period, over half of which were facing or experiencing homelessness. But I think the point is this is not the whole story. We know there are many other people who are homeless or facing homelessness or in extreme housing difficulties who are not being recorded, who are not accessing the services and help that they could. And of course there's also those people who every day actually fear homelessness because they're in a short let or insecure let, or because they're struggling with the housing costs. And I would suggest to you that the fear of homelessness, that daily fear, that worry about homelessness, is almost as corrosive as homelessness itself. We know, of course, that homelessness impacts on the emotional and physical health of people, impacts on families, on children, and of course on communities. But I think the point about all this is there is nothing inevitable about homelessness. Homelessness is not a natural disaster. In fact, I would suggest it's an unnatural disaster as a result often of decisions, of policies, of the allocation of resources that go back many, many years. And what we can do about it, I think, is really important. Everyone can do something about the issue of homelessness. If it's only every day whenever you get an opportunity of actually framing the issue for people, explaining what the causes are, what the impacts are, but importantly also what some of the answers and solutions might be. The causes, it's not about lifestyle, it's not about fecklessness, but it's about major structural impacts. It's about poverty, it's about the shortage of affordable homes, it's about austerity, it's about benefit cuts overlaid on the kind of challenges and issues that people have had to experience in their life, which shouldn't make them homeless, but because of those structural issues has made them homeless. And there are answers. Ciaran mentioned the Homeless Action Group, which the Minister for Housing and Local Government brought together a couple of months ago, and I think that's really exciting work. Peter Mackay is going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. Really important work. They're looking at universal prevention, targeted prevention and crisis prevention, very much driven by the idea that there are answers to this. We can end homelessness in Wales. So, I just want to tell you very briefly about two particular aspects of that ending homelessness in Wales that my organisation has been quite closely involved in. And I'm not going to tell you too much about them. I want you to come and talk to me about them later because I'm going to start eroding other people's time if I carry on. But the concept of zero evictions into homelessness, this is an idea that nobody should become homeless from social housing, and perhaps extending that to nobody should become homeless from discharge from prisons or hospitals or any other institution. I think that's a really important ambition and aim, and it's really great that the Minister has taken that on and is very keen that we pursue that approach in Wales. That could make a huge contribution to reducing the levels of homelessness in Wales, and a great thing for Wales to be taking up. And the other one that my organisation and Tai Pawb and the Chartered Institute of Housing in Cymru has been involved in is the idea of embedding the right to adequate housing into Welsh law. We've produced a report which says it is possible. Again, the Minister is very keen on looking at this as a possible way forward, and I think that would be a real game changer if we had a right embedded in Welsh law to a home. I think that would make a significant difference to decisions being made and the way we plan and deliver our services across the piece. So I've said my bit. So I'd like to go on to the first speaker this morning, who's Dr. Peter Mackay. Pete and I go back a bit, don't we, Pete? Pete used to be the senior researcher at Shelter Cymru, but it's been downhill ever since, hasn't it, Pete? But of course, Pete is a reader at Cardiff University, and I have to say, in all honesty, it's great that we've got Pete Mackay in Wales. I mean, he really is a fantastic, has fantastic insight into the issues of housing and homelessness policy, and as I say, a real asset, and I think we're going to get a really good keynote speech from Pete right now. Over to you, Pete.